Everyone, and welcome to the regular council meeting for the Village of Lytton on June 23rd. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone to please turn off your videos, mute your microphones, and allow council to begin the proceedings. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and broadcasted on the Village of Lytton YouTube channel. If you wish to view this meeting or access a video recording of a past meeting, you can visit the Village YouTube channel and watch it there. Thank you, Your Worship. You may call the meeting to order. You are muted, just a reminder.
I forgot, thank you. So I call this regular council meeting of Tuesday, June the 23rd to order at 7:02 p.m. To begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting here on the unceded traditional ancestral territory of the Ntlaka'pamux people. All right, we need a motion to adopt the agenda, but we are going to be amending it, and we are going to be moving the annual report discussion to be under the CAO reports at 7.1.3, I believe. So can we have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended? Thank you, Councillor Michelle, seconded by Councillor McCann. All those in favor? Carried. Now on to the adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of June the 9th. Do we need a motion, please?
So moved, Lightfoot.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Michelle. Were there any errors or omissions on those minutes? No, all those in favor? Carried. And the minutes of the council workshop that was held on June the 10th.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor McCann, and seconded by Councillor Toss. Were there any errors or omissions on that? No, all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Perfect. Okay, now we've moved down to public comment, and I'm going to turn it back over to Corporate Officer Storoshenko.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we now invite members of the public to provide comments on items related to tonight's agenda. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand function feature on Zoom. You can find that by clicking on React at the bottom of your screen and then select raise hand. When it's your turn, I'll read your name and you'll be asked to unmute yourself. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to please state and spell your name, provide your address, and indicate the agenda item that you are speaking to. So if anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. I'll call for a second time. If anyone would like to speak, please use the raise hand function now. Not seeing anyone online, Your Worship. Is there anyone there at Parish Hall?
There's no one in hall tonight but us.
All right, so thank you. That concludes the public comment portion of the meeting. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 7, staff reports, and we'll begin with CAO's reports regarding capital projects update.
Thank you very much, Mayor O'Connor. Good evening, everyone. This is our monthly report on the capital projects. We've had some progress over the last month or so. On the community hub, we did have a council workshop with the architects to talk about some of the proposed changes or possible changes to the design to help reduce some of the estimated cost. And so they've taken that information away. We have met with the architects again. It's just as staff to try to explain some of those items and make sure that they understand what has been requested of them. So they'll be working on an updated design, but we'll see in approximately 3 weeks. We have the revised pool proposal expected. I say this month, we're expecting it this week or next to come, and then that should be something that we can bring to council for approval and for input on their part of that. The pool proposal then as well has some additional community consultation that we'll need to do with the project advisory committee, but also just with meeting with the local health and recreation coordinators who have expressed interest in being part of that design and part of that discussion to make sure that the pool meets their needs for programming that they're trying to do in their communities. So that'll be a follow-up step before it's finalized. On the fire hall, we have later on the agenda tonight a recommendation for an architect to start that design process. We also have completed a report on the access egress of the site from Highway 1. And so the report is complete, and we're now reaching out to the Ministry of Transportation to try to meet and discuss the engineer's findings and see if there's some way we can get approval for an access off of Highway 1, particularly for the fire trucks, not necessarily for all traffic going in and out of the site, really just for the fire trucks so that they can have quick access onto the highway to get wherever they need to go. Following the recommendation tonight, if approved, we would then move forward with onboarding the architect, the contracting requirements, relaying the information that we have to date on the site, but then also look at establishing a kind of a workshop with council and the architect and probably the project advisory committee, just to try to establish at the outset what our community engagement process is going to be, so everybody can be aware of what's going to be coming up on that. A lot of the engagement, I think I've said before, on the fire hall is of a technical nature. And so we'll be reaching out to many of the partners in the community that would be involved in utilizing the facility and have actual technical requirements to make sure that anything that is needed would be incorporated into that. The village office, of course, we know the construction is underway. We also had our project coordinator for construction meet on site with our construction advisor a couple of weeks ago. So they had the opportunity to review the project and discuss kind of the ongoing monitoring and communication requirements for that project. That's proceeding. The water upgrades, not a lot of change on this one. There's a lot of planning going on at this point. And we had approved a couple of smaller projects with some water meters and some sampling stations. Those parts have been ordered, and we're just waiting for them to come in. And as soon as they do, we'll get those installed. And then, of course, the sewer project we all know is proceeding, moving through town, and pretty much on schedule as far as I know. And then we are still working on that SCADA system and backup for the wastewater treatment plant. And that continues to be just a project that we seem to just be struggling with to try to get the contractors to respond and get answers and to try to move that forward. But we continue to follow up. So those are the updates for this month. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's put the motion forward to receive this report for information. Councillor Toss, and seconded by Councillor McCann, sorry. So questions, comments, thoughts on this report?
I have a couple.
Councillor McCann?
Yeah. On the fire hall, you said a couple of different things there, Diane, and I just wanted to make sure I get it clear. So the current PAC, the current project advisory committee for the hub is the same people you're talking about here? And then
Yes,
you also mentioned that you'd want more technical expertise. So is it like a kind of a revised PAC that's kind of going to move forward with the fire building?
That's what I would expect. I mean, that's part of what the session is about, just to talk about kind of how we want to do the community engagement, who's going to be involved, how that will roll out. Yeah. I thought since we had the PAC established, that could be a group to start with. That doesn't mean it has to be, the only people that are involved, because it may morph for this project.
Okay.
From the previous one,
my
but that's the intent of having the discussion. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Starting point.
Thank you. And I do have to ask, what is going on with the pool? The pool is just seeming like it takes forever and ever. Did it hit some kind of major hurdle somewhere and we're getting near to being over it, or? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the first proposal that came in was way over budget. And so we just said, why don't you go back and just tell us what we can have for within this bucket of money. And that's the proposal that we're waiting to come back. There's no doubt that it's the contractor has been busy. They were involved in some of the modular homes that were being built over at LFN, and they had, a big deadline kind of come this spring on that project. And so that did affect our timing a little bit, for sure. And so now I think we kind of have they have more capacity to be focusing
Okay.
on this, so it's moving
Yeah.
a little bit better.
All right, thanks. I knew there was probably a reason, I just didn't really know what it was.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I'm glad that Councillor McCann asked that question. I also had questions around the PAC. I think like the Community Hub PAC currently doesn't have any taxpayers on it, just the mayor. So I'm thinking with the fire hall, we probably have an opportunity to involve taxpayers. And I'd love to see the community given the opportunity, CAO member Burkett, to be involved. And I like the idea of the experts being in there, but most importantly, I feel our volunteer fire department should have a seat at that table as well. And it really should be a bigger group than I think that the Hub PAC doesn't really because it doesn't really represent the community. I'm also wondering about the Community Hub in that recent CBC article that came out, they had a line in there that said, or sorry, Canadian Press that said that the GICB funding requires a 6-year operations and management plan. Is that true?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to pull out the contribution agreement and see what's in there. Yeah.
So I'd love to find out what exactly our requirements are on that, because I think that's a major gap right now in our planning. And so, yeah, going back to the Community Hub PAC meetings, I really, really want to emphasize how important it is to have taxpayers that ultimately will own that amenity on that advisory commission or with the committee. And I think that Mayor or Councillor McCann addressed my other question about the pool proposals, where we're at. So yeah, I basically am really emphatically asking that we can involve community members and also neighboring nations and the TNRD and the BC Ambulance should all be major partners in this. And I don't know how we can draw in the surrounding nations, but I think at this point it's probably prudent to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from council? No? Okay, so a motion.
Oh, sorry, Mayor O'Connor, maybe I should phrase that as a question. CAO member Burkett, will there be an opportunity for community members that are taxpayers to be involved with either of the project advisory committees for the hub or the fire hall?
I haven't had any discussion with the current project advisory committee or with council about the makeup of the hub committee. If council wishes to revisit the terms of reference for that committee, of course, they're welcome to do that. My suggestion is that on July the 7th at the Committee of the Whole, we're going to have a discussion about what the engagement looks like for the fire hall. I have no preconceived notions of who's involved, what's involved, nothing. That's
okay.
We're just going to start the conversation.
Okay, I'll bring it up then. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I have a motion to receive this report for information? Sorry, we've got the motion on the floor. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor?
Yeah. Aye.
Thank you. All right. There we go. All right. So now we're on to the 2025 Community Water Systems Report. And Diane, did you want to speak to that first or?
Yes, sure. Thanks, Mayor O'Connor. We do have with us our senior operator, Kevin Vilak. He's on the call with us tonight. He's going to present the 2025 water report. So this is an annual requirement that we have underneath our water license with Interior Health, and Kevin is responsible for really managing and monitoring our water system. So I thought it was best if he come and present the report, and he can answer any questions that council might have about the system. So Lisa, I think you have a presentation for Kevin. Is that right? So I'll turn it over to you, Kevin. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Welcome to the 2025 Water System Report. So we'll move through this, similar setup to last year's, and we'll just move through and I'll answer any questions at the end for you guys. So the Village of Lytton provides this drinking water to the users of the community water system, in particular the Village of Lytton, Lytton First Nations for IR 17 and IR 18, Annual water system report is a requirement of the Provincial Drinking Water Protection Act, the village's water service agreement with Lytton First Nation, and village's water system operation permit from Interior Health. The Interior Health Authority's drinking water officer is responsible for the water system permits and regulations that we must follow. So our water sources and supply for 2025, the primary water source, as we all are aware, is the Lytton Creek. And for backup supply, when Lytton Creek cannot provide the proper water that meets the guidelines, is wells 2 and 3. And we have a backup generator for the water treatment plant in the event of a power outage. And we also have a portable generator, which allows us to power one well site to provide some water if the creek, it doesn't meet the guidelines as well. So we can always get some potable water going depending on the situation. So for 2025, Lytton Creek provided 102.53 million liters of water, or 59% of the overall supply. Wells 2 and 3 provided 71.45 million liters, or 41% of the overall water for 2025, for a total of 173.98 million liters last year we used. So the village follows Interior Health's drinking water objectives to inactivate viruses, remove and inactivate Giardia, Lamblia, and Cryptosporidium. We treat the water with UV and chlorine, and we also manage or monitor the turbidity to ensure the absence of fecal coliforms and E. coli. Water treatment includes the Trojan Swift low pressure UV reactors that we have up on the hill directly below the creek intake. And then we also inject sodium hypochlorite for chlorination within the 2 reservoirs that are located up at the water treatment plant. And the reservoirs act as our contact basins so that we get proper disinfection and maintain a proper free residual within the distribution system. The water is stored in 3 different reservoirs. So we have our 2 upper reservoirs by the water treatment plant, and between the 3 of them, we hold 1.3 million liters in the reservoirs, and approximately 115,000 liters is within our distribution system. Our distribution system includes 6.5 kilometers of pipes, and pipes ranging from 50 millimeters to 200 millimeters. So the total 2025 water consumption, as I've said, was 173.98 million liters, and this is an increase of 4% from 2024's overall consumption. And there's a graph there that outlines kind of the comparative from 2024 to 2025 to see where the consumptions were and how they compared for the months. So Lytton's average daily use was 3,178 liters per person. This was based on a population of 150, I believe I ran the numbers, same numbers as last year's population pretty much. The average daily water use in BC is 465 liters per person. The consumption for the village of Lytton is extremely high, and most of it I'm pretty certain is due to the construction activities, village maintenance, and recovery operations. And we do have a few water leaks that we are working around to dealing with. And as we move through with replacing some infrastructure, we take care of those. And then we have the graph there was just showing the kind of the daily consumption per person, or the average daily water use that way. Water quality monitoring. So at the water treatment plant, we have some online equipment, and we do extensive water quality monitoring to ensure the safety of the drinking water. We do lab testing weekly from 7 different locations within the village, and we kind of rotate that around, so we're not always sampling the same spots every week. and that gives us a good snapshot of what's actually happening within the distribution system. We do quarterly testing to monitor for disinfection byproducts. That's a big one for us because of the creek being the main water supply, with the use of chlorine and the potential for having carbon or organic matter within the creek supply that can cause some disinfection byproducts. So we monitor that closely to ensure we don't have any issues coming from that. We have chlorine residual testing, which we do weekly while we do our water testing, and we also do turbidity testing from within the system while we're taking our water samples for the lab. And the SCADA system at the water treatment plant monitors the water system 24/7 for flow, temperature, turbidity, ultraviolet transmittance, or otherwise known as UVT, the pH, and the chlorine residual of the water. And the water operators can check the real-time data online and identify any problems as they occur, or hopefully catch them before they happen or we have any major problems. So the operations staff is highly trained and certified operators which operate and maintain the village's water system. As certified staff do water distribution system work like repairing water main leaks, installing water services, and maintaining the hydrants. And the village contract specialists to clean reservoirs and do some leak detection and specialized stuff like replacing water mains that is beyond what the village is able to do.
Mhm.
So in 2025, our activities that we completed replacement of water mains on Alonzo Way between 4th and 5th Street, Station Road between 5th and 7th Street. We replaced a water main on 6th Street from Main to Station Road. We completed a water main loop on 7th Street from Alonzo Way to Station Road, and that is a key component for supplying IR18 and as well as mitigating the dead end that used to be up in that area of town. We completed a water intake assessment to determine what the best course of action is to make the intake better and last for a lot longer. We completed 166 weekly water samples, and we serviced the UV reactors number 1 and 2, and we also serviced the altitude valve at reservoir 265. And that valve, an altitude valve, controls the water, the filling of the 265 reservoir. Without it, the water would just run freely from up top of the hill and overflow that reservoir. So it's a critical component of how Reservoir 265 operates and services the downtown area of the village. And we've cleaned the Lytton Creek intake twice last year to make sure there's no debris or extra buildup to get into the water. So for 2026, we need to continue to identify and repair our water leaks and replace old infrastructure, complete plans for a source water protection plan, a drought response plan, an emergency response plan. And these plans are all part of the condition of permit set out by Interior Health, and they are a condition to maintain the licensing of the system. And we have planned to upgrade several more water mains. We're planning on installing cooling for well 2 kiosk. Now we've seen this one before, and I believe we've discussed it as well. Again, due to contractors and parts, this one's been a little difficult for some reason. You wouldn't think so, but it just has been. We're working on installing the 5 water sampling stations throughout the village. And the reason and the purpose for these is a lot of the places we sample are private properties, and we don't always have access to regularly sample within private property. So this allows the village to sample freely and at any time, and provides a good snapshot in areas of the water distribution system which we're not able to currently sample because there's nothing there to sample from. And then we're planning and working towards replacing the water meters at IR18 and install a new water meter for IR17. So the other priorities, the village needs to develop a cross-connection control program or backflow prevention program as part of rebuilding. And this also is a condition of permit set out by Interior Health. And with this program, we'll be able to inspect and eliminate possible connections between the potable water system and any non-potable connection and prevent potential contamination of the water and the potable system. The village also needs to prioritize conservation and anticipate drought as we're seeing again this year. I believe this is the 5th year we're entering drought for British Columbia, especially in the southern interior. So this is something that we'll have to look at going forward. And there's a potential that Interior Health may add this to condition of permit. It's something they've seemed to start to do now. So that villages and cities are able to deal with and handle a drought, especially a long-term drought like what we have been in. And then we need to maintain an adequate supply of water for potential firefighting and community needs. And that's critical based on what recently happened. So
Okay.
that's the report.
Thank you, Kevin. So what we'll do is we're going to put the motion forward to receive this report for information. Who would like to make the motion? Thank you, Councillor Michelle, seconded by Councillor Lightfoot. And now we'll entertain questions or comments for Kevin. Councillor Lightfoot first.
I just have a couple of questions. So right now we're on boil water alert, and that occurred because the power failed? Is that
No,
correct?
well, a little bit to do with the power failure that we experienced on Friday. But the main reason for instituting or implementing the boil water advisory was due to the high potential of a high turbidity event. So because we were not able to supply enough water through the wells for firefighting activities, we would have to stay on the creek in order to supply enough water for the firefighting activities. And if the turbidity were to spike, there's nothing we could do about it. So normally what we would do is shut the creek off and switch to wells.
Yeah.
So to keep the water safe and our residents safe, the best course of action was to just institute the boil water advisory for the residents that were still within the village, and also still be able to provide water for firefighting activities. I have daily briefings with Interior Health with regards to the boil water advisory, and I found out too late about the all clear this evening. So tomorrow morning when I speak to her first thing, I'm pretty confident that we should be able to remove the boil water advisory tomorrow morning.
That's good news. Councillor
And if
Lightfoot.
I may just ask one more question. So I saw you did 166 weekly water samples. And this is probably below your pay grade, but I'm just wondering, so we take the samples, then we send them to Ashcroft, Kamloops? Where does
Yes,
that go?
so currently, because the village operates a small water system, the water samples or the lab samples are paid for by Interior Health. They cover the cost for that weekly water sampling. So
Okay.
we take the weekly water samples on Wednesdays and we take them to Ashcroft and drop them off in the public health cooler. And then Interior Health covers the costs for the courier from Ashcroft to get them to the lab in Kelowna, which is Caro Analytical Services, and they do all the lab testing. There is some lab testing that the village is responsible to do on their own, and those samples we take to ALS in Kamloops because it's closer, and the cost for the same samples are a little less at ALS as compared to Caro Analytical.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor, and thank you, Kevin, for keeping us all safe with our water. A few questions. I'm just wondering about this water leakage because anecdotally, I feel like it's not construction use. I feel like it is leakage from just like what I've been observing. Like, what can we do about that? Like, I know with the you know, the stop, the backflow valves. Is there some way to get like to isolate the different mains and establish where exactly the use is being so high? Because that amount is off the charts.
It
Um,
is, yes,
I
it
have
is.
20,000 liters for 2 months at my other house, and that seems like an astronomical amount. So what are we doing about that? Because clearly that could mitigate our necessity to have extreme drought water restrictions.
Well, yes and no. So by dealing with water leaks, you'll hold the water back and it'll last a little longer. The drought side of the coin is merely what the creek can provide for the most
Okay.
part,
Yeah.
or the aquifer in that manner. In 2025, we know we had some pretty significant leaks along Alonzo Way and Station Road between 5th and 6th. So those water mains were all replaced last year. So we've seen some reductions on kind of our daily numbers. Just the overall in the year is been quite high for 2025. Just most recently this year, a couple of weeks ago, we did hydrant maintenance and servicing, and through doing that, we found 2 hydrants that were leaking. So those have now been fixed, which will also should reduce our numbers as we move forward in 2026. Um, as far as water leaks go, I'm aware of 2 water leaks currently right now, but they are in sections of water main that are slated to be replaced. So it doesn't make sense financially, in my opinion, to go in and dig everything up and spend all of the money just to dig it up and replace it all with all the new parts when the new water main and new water services come in. So unless they become a critical problem for travel or water quality, right now we're just kind of monitoring those, and once the mains are replaced, that'll subside. But they're not super large water leaks compared to some of the other ones that we've already repaired last year.
So potentially we could find more as well as we're proceeding, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's always possible, 100%.
Okay.
But I think with all the construction activity planned and water replacements being planned, I would think that 2027 should be the year that the village would really see the rewards from all the work they've been doing in the sense of water conservation and being able to really lower your consumption rates.
Okay. And then my last question was with Lytton Creek and your discussion about lifting the boil water advisory answered a bit of that, but it's my ignorance, but I thought the wildfire fighting um, efforts were dumping chemicals as well into the creek area. There's no validity to that.
No, that is incorrect. So
Okay.
it was confirmed Friday night at approximately 10:30 p.m. I was able to speak with uh, the assistant fire chief, and he said he was not aware of any chemicals like retardants or foam that they use. And section chief with BC Wildfire out of the EOC first thing Monday morning also confirmed that they did not and will not use any foam or fire retardants within the Lytton watershed because of it being a potable water source for the village of Lytton. So their strategy with that and the conversations I had with them throughout the weekend and Monday was they wanted to just strictly use water because they wanted to save the village and still provide safe water for them. So
Okay,
yeah,
that's great. So no
all good.
assessment required. You don't, and if there were chemicals, it would show up in the testing as well, right?
Correct. So, first thing Monday morning, we did testing. We pulled samples. So we're just waiting for that. We'll probably pull a couple more rounds of sampling to do that,
Yeah.
just to ensure the biggest problem or the biggest potential problem is due to the wildfire is what's called PAHs, so polyaromatic hydrocarbons, and those come from unburnt or incomplete burnt fuels, such as wood that's only been partially burnt. And as that would get washed in, it potentially could get washed in from the charcoal that's on the mountain from the burn and into the creek. So we are monitoring for that to see where we are and if they happen to show up. And also due to the wildfire, under the conditions of permit set out by Interior Health, the village is also required to do a source water assessment now because of the wildfire moving through the watershed. So we're currently working on getting some quotes and approvals through the EOC, and hopefully we can have that work start to ensure there's no major changes within the watershed this year.
Great. Thank you very much, Kevin.
You're
Are
welcome.
there any other questions? Councillor McCann.
Thanks, Kevin. You're right on topic. I was thinking about your comment earlier about completing a source water protection plan, and then you just referred to a follow-up from the fire being a source water protection plan. So are these the same thing, or because it was already part of the plan, and how is it different from what you're describing?
So source water protection plan, which the village did one after the 2021 fires, identifies risks to your water system and ways you can mitigate risk or what to watch for to that risk or what to restrict within the village to prevent those risks to your water system. And through the source water assessment, and that's what I'm talking about due to the fire, that's just to ensure there hasn't been any significant changes to the water source, being Lytton Creek, that can potentially cause any issues. Now, depending what comes out of the assessment of the watershed, potentially will change or cause an updated source water protection plan to be produced.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Yeah. And if there are no other questions, Councillor Lightfoot.
I actually have one, and I'm not sure. It's about water restrictions. You know, given that, you know, drought is part of our reality these days. And I know in the past, I used to have a bit of a back and forth with Interior Health because they said the village of Lytton used too much water. And I tried to explain that keeping our grounds hydrated and finding that fine balance where you've got enough to respond and you can still allow your citizens to keep some of their grounds moist. You know, we used to look at the reservoirs every morning to see what level they were at. So is there a system that you've set up with the village to, because I would hate to have like absolutely no watering. I think a staged watering restriction is probably the best idea. But are those numbers working their way through the water people there? Is there, I mean, with SCADA, you can see where your reservoirs are any time of the day or night.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Yes. So watering restrictions are typically approved. Mayor and council would approve that. Like it would be brought to you as a recommendation, and then you guys would approve whether you want to do that or not. So in 2025, there was no water restrictions put in place, and we had no issues in the sense of supply of water or the supply getting so low that, you know, where we're going to run out and or anything like that. With respect to the hot weather and the potential for fire, we kind of changed our operational strategy with how we fill the reservoirs. So normally we would draw the reservoir down to approximately 75 or 80% of volume, and then we'd fill it back up. And we do that to ensure we get a complete mix with the chlorine and it keeps the water fresh so the water doesn't go stale. But this year, due to the early onset of the hot weather and the dryness coming, operationally, we decided to keep the reservoirs fuller. So we have the creek and the water treatment plant turn on at 90% and it shuts off at 98%. So we by doing that operationally, I believe that allowed us the water availability for everybody to do what they're doing, as well as for firefighting activities without kind of getting behind the eight ball, so to speak, to where we're pulling water faster than we can produce it in a sense. And just some numbers for that on Friday, June 19th. We used a total of 1,039 cubic meters on Friday when the fiery event started. Saturday was 974 cubic meters. Sunday was 973 cubic meters. Monday was 710 cubic meters for the day overall. And so far today at 5:30, when I checked everything out, we were at 600 cubic meters for today currently. So you can definitely see the effects of when we were pulling water and now that we're not, or that we're getting better with, the fire situation, that the consumption for firefighting efforts has significantly dropped.
Thank you. That's quite reassuring.
Great.
Yeah. And to speak quickly to like the question with the boil water advisory, on Friday, the average turbidity level, so we're permitted at a maximum of 1.0 NTU for turbidity. Anything over that is when we would have to issue a full-blown boil water advisory, because the event we had earlier this year where we had a failure of our turbidity meter and we had that situation. So on June 19th, Friday, we had an average turbidity of 0.250, which is kind of normal. That's about where we normally run on the system. And then we had spikes up to 0.420, so almost double of average. On Saturday, we were running at an average of 0.40 turbidity with a spike up to 0.84. So we almost maxed out on Saturday on what we're permitted for turbidity. And then Sunday, our average jumped up to 0.45. And then we had a spike for a little while up to 0.97. So almost at 1.0 NTU of turbidity. And then on Monday, we were back down to 0.27 average turbidity with some spikes up to 0.30. And then today we're 0.25 again on average with no spikes. So based on where we are on wildfire event and the all clear, with this information as well, I'm confident we will be able to remove the boil water advisory tomorrow.
That's great news. Councillor Choss, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, this is giving me more pause for questions. So the turbidity during the fire, like the fire, the ashes and whatnot, caused the turbidity?
That's what we suspect, yes.
Okay. My other question was just out of curiosity. I go and I walk down by Lytton Creek every day, and one day it's running and the next day it's turned off. It's obviously to conserve water up at the reservoir. Is there any way to keep that water running and still have water flow for the village? Because I know a lot of residents really enjoy that when and especially with the ferry closed now, they're actually bringing in buckets of potable water because they usually just, I know it's boil water and they shouldn't be drinking out of the creek, but people do use the creek and cool down there. So what, is there a way to keep it open?
Well, that actually has nothing to do with us per se. So what you're seeing there is natural water course operation of the creek. So the creek runs into the dam, and then we draw off of the dam, and all the excess water runs over the weir of the dam and carries on down to the Fraser River. As the water levels in the creek drop, it starts at the bottom and works backwards in a sense, and the creek is still actually, you don't see it, but it's still there and it's running underground.
Gotcha.
So as it dries up, that's just a natural thing. And really the only way we could potentially extend that would be to just stop drawing water from the creek altogether.
Interesting. Yeah, I do see that there's an underground stream that comes out right at the Fraser. The whole creek is dry, and then it emerges about 10 feet before the Fraser. It's really interesting. Yeah, thank you.
That's all just
Okay.
natural stuff.
Okay, so Kevin, thank you so much for the report. What we will do is we will vote on the receiving this report. So all those in favor?
Aye.
That is carried. Thank you again, Kevin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council.
Have a good evening. All right, we'll move on to item number 7.1.3, which is now the annual report. And Diane, there you go.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. And Lisa is going to pull up a quick presentation for me. So this is our 2025 annual report. We had this come to council 2 weeks ago just to receive it so that we could make it available to the public. One of the requirements on this other report is to make it available for 2 weeks prior to council adopting it in an open public meeting. So the annual report is required by June the 30th of each year. And this is, it comes, we're 1 week early, but, we usually are sort of right to the end of the time frame while we kind of get all the pieces together. So this has been available for the 2 weeks. We have not heard any comments from the public. At our meeting 2 weeks ago with council, when we brought it to be received, we did receive 2 questions in the meeting. One was related to an error in the way that a number was described. And so we've gone back and we've corrected that. And the other was a request to amend the organization chart that was presented in the report. Staff went back and did some research looking at a number of different municipalities and how they do their org charts. And we did not make a change to ours. We left it consistent with how other municipalities kind of display that information. So so the annual report has been available on the website and at the office for review by the public. And like I said, we haven't received any comments on that. So
Right.
the annual
Sorry, keep going.
So the annual report includes, there's a number of kind of prescribed components to it. It includes the services and operations report. It includes some progress measured against the established objectives. So those things come from our annual plan that we do every year. The objectives and measures for the current year. So that's out of the 2026 plan. Details of any council disqualifications, a list of the permissive tax exemptions, and then the audited financial statements are part of the annual report as well. The 2025 highlights, I'm not going to really go into any of these. We've been through all of the 2025 items quite a few different times, but just a couple quick things. We finished the backfilling. We issued 17 occupancy permits for homes during the year. We launched the OCP process, the OCP update process. We've been working on some of the economic development initiatives and the essential housing initiatives. We've made a lot of progress on the capital projects, the repairs and the upgrades to the water and the sewer system, completing the public works building, hired the architects for the community hub and the village office. And then we also signed the contribution agreements for the community hub and the fire and emergency services building. Those things were all done in 2025. On the safety and sustainability side of things, we continue to work on the Fire Smart initiatives with our partners in the community, but as well just within the village of Lytton, and trying to do more fire rescue training and inspections. We held several training sessions on EOC and ESS items during the year. And then we also received a donated fire truck from Seton, and we purchased an electric vehicle for the Public Works Department. On the 2026 priorities, so the things that are coming up for this year, the rebuilding the village office, planning the fire and hall and emergency services building, planning for the construction of the community hub and the pool, continuing on with the water and sewer system upgrades, finalizing that OCP update, and of course we've got the general election coming up on October the 17th. The 2025 financial statements are included in the annual report. We had BDO presented these to council on May the 26th at the regular council meeting. Our revenues for 2025 were 1.7 million. Our expenses were 2.48 million, and that difference was funded primarily through recovery related reserves. And that is it. Oh, just a note about, there is a section on the website that includes a number of reports and plans that we prepare, including the annual report, but it also includes some of our quarterly reporting, our audited financial statements, our capital projects update, all those types of things are all contained in this section on the website, if anybody's interested.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So what we'll do is we'll put this recommend a motion forward to approve this report. Councillor Lightfoot, seconded by Councillor McCann. Are there any comments or questions? Further comments or questions? I know we did add some at the last time we saw it. I don't see any. Oh, Councillor Toss, there you go.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I can't pretend I'm not disappointed that the constituents, our taxpayers, weren't at the top of the org chart that I have seen in communities, but again, that's just formatting, I guess. I know I made the comment in our last meeting that I felt that saying that the Community Hub PAC represents the Village of Lytton taxpayers or the TNRD is a bit misleading. So I'm not going to vote to accept this report because I don't think it's actually a fair representation of the consultation that's happened. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? No? So all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And that motion is carried. All right, we're going to move on to there we are, back up here. I mixed up. So 7.1.4, which is the Fire and Emergency Services Center. And Diane, back over to you.
Thank you again, Mayor O'Connor. We have completed our process for the Fire and Emergency Services Center architect selection. So we did post an RFP on BC Bid looking for architectural services for the design of the new Fire and Emergency Services Center. So we have received 13 responses by the deadline. We had one response that was received late. When we issued the request for proposals, we did provide some very specific requirements for the information that we wanted to receive, because we did not want to get into receiving 150-page proposals and then trying to compare them and finding out how they compared against each other. So we did provide some forms, and we asked each of the proponents to fill out the forms and provide us with the specific information. So once those were received, it's a little bit easier to kind of compare one firm to another and to look at their experience and what they've done. So we did look at the proposals, basically comparing against 4 categories: the experience, the team that was presented, the project plan, including the timeline, and then the price that was given. So these proposals, when they come in, the architect proposes the price. It includes the entire consulting team. It's not just the architect, it's all of the engineers and various consultants that are needed to design a building. So we narrowed it down. Really, there were 2 firms that were kind of front runners, and they were very comparable. We then conducted interviews with them, and also spoke to some of the previous clients that they had, just to make sure that our understanding of what was provided in their proposal was accurate. At the end of that, when we compared the results, we decided that we were comfortable to recommend Faction Architecture as the architect for the Fire and Emergency Services Center. Faction Architecture have done a number of fire hall emergency buildings in small communities. Pemberton, Tumbler Ridge, Mackenzie. So they have experience working within an environment sort of similar to ours. Had a lot of experience working with local First Nations and other community partners, and overall had proposed a really solid team. So that's our recommendation is to proceed with negotiating a contract with them for the Fire and Emergency Services Center. The base contract amount is $997,500, and estimated disbursements on top of that.
Okay, so we do have a 2-part recommended motion here. So let's put that forward, and then we will discuss.
I also move.
Thank you, Councillor McCann, and seconded by Councillor Michelle. All right. Thoughts, questions? Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I'm wondering if, well, just further to my concerns before, if we can involve the fire department and the community taxpayers more in this project advisory committee than we have with the hub, if that's an option. I hope the rest of council sees the value in that as well. And
So the motion that's on the floor that we're discussing is around authorizing CAO to proceed.
okay, well, the proposal as proposed refers to a PAC, and I'm just asking for clarification on that because I think it's a really important point.
The motion is to proceed with negotiating a contract with Faction Architecture for the design of the Lytton Fire Emergency Services Center for a total base contract of value of blah, blah, blah. That's the motion that we are talking about right now.
Okay, and in the report, under next steps, it has discussions with Faction Council and the PAC. That is relevant. So I just would like to put that out there, and I think the council could consider it, and we'll bring it up at the next council of the whole meeting. I'm just putting it on the table. I think the community would be very supportive of that. My second question is, what kind of a contract are we looking at, CAO Marquette? Is this, excuse my ignorance, but is it like a design build or a construction management? And who is the architect going to report to? Who is the project manager?
The contract that's used for the architects is a standard architectural contract that's used in all architectural services for British Columbia. So they have a standard contract and you kind of tick off the things that apply to your project. So they might, in some cases, they might provide these services or those services and you go through and so it's a standard template contract. There's been no discussion yet whether or not it's going to be design build or construction management or anything like that. That's at the later on the construction side of things. So that's not been discussed at this time. Well, it won't be design build because we've got the architects doing the design.
Yes.
So that they'll be moving forward on that piece. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
The project manager. So with federal funding, they required an experienced and a project manager that's on the ground. Is that going to happen? And is that our project coordinator? Because I think it has to be a very experienced person with construction. Who is that going to be?
It'll be the same combination that we are using at the community hub. So it'll be the construction advisor working with the project coordinator, the two
the project coordinator is our recent hire,
and
the project advisor is working out of Halifax.
The construction advisor is Brendan Nobes. That's right.
Out of Halifax. Okay. Yeah. So on the ground, we're going to have the construction consultant.
We're going to have the project coordinator.
Project coordinator. And do they have a lot of experience with this kind of a project?
I don't think they've ever been involved with the Fire and Emergency Services Center before.
Okay. Yeah. So essentially our project manager or our project coordinator, pardon me, is going to be the person the architect goes to? Or both, project advisor? Like, or is he going to be emailing Brendan back east, or is he going to be talking to our person?
So I guess it depends on the motion. Excuse me, let's go back to the motion. The motion is to authorize the CAO to proceed with negotiating. We're not
and without being fully informed, it's impossible for me to vote on this. So I do need to know if there's going to be a project manager. And who is the architect?
Yes, I think she has explained that, who it's going to be. So Councillor Lightfoot.
Thank you.
I just want to say that this motion is for the design. It's not for the construction. That will be the next phase. We're not sure.
We want to make sure we're in order.
Excuse me, I have the floor.
Sorry.
And I do want to say that I have heard our CAO numerous times confirm that the fire department and those services would be involved in the design. I believe you were in the same room. I'm not sure, perhaps. So I have no problem with this because it is for the design of the project. It's not executing the design. It's not executing the construction. It's just getting the design correct, interacting with the local providers to make sure that their needs are heard. And it's step one in a multi-step project.
Thank you. So back to the motion that's on the floor.
I have a question. I have a comment.
Just please wait. I'm just going to ask if Councillor Michelle or Councillor McCann have any thoughts or comments on this motion.
Just one.
Councillor McCann?
I'm sorry, CAO Mombriquette, but I have forgotten the total funding for the project. But this is the amount for the architect and what just how much is left?
Yeah, the total project for the Fire and Emergency Services Center is $23.1 million. And so this amount for the architect fits within when we did the budget initially, there's like a consultant group amount, and this fits within that amount.
Yeah, and that leaves us a significant portion then. But I can't do the math right now, if that's not that much. Yeah, so,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Councillor
Thank you.
Michelle, do you have any?
No, that was.
Okay. Now, Councillor Toss.
Thank you. Just for the record, I'm voting in favor of this. It's just we do not, I haven't seen a lot of discussion. We haven't had a lot of discussion around the fire hall yet. So I'm seeking clarification. This is my opportunity to understand the project better. So I am supportive of this. I've done my research, and typically 5.7% of the budget goes towards the architect. The amount is within the parameters.
Okay,
that is normal.
great.
But
Thank you. So why don't we call the question then?
Mhm.
I will do that. All those in favor?
oh, sorry. I'm in favor.
There we go. That is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank
All
you.
right. Now we move on to CFO Mombriquette, and we will begin with 7.2.1, which is the monthly reporting that we do. We do this every month.
Yeah, and I don't have anything really new to say. This is the monthly reporting to EMCR for reimbursement under the recovery funding.
For the month of May. So we have a motion to approve it and to submit it. Who would like to put that forward?
So you've tossed.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Michelle, and seconded Councillor Toss. And any questions regarding this? Councillor Toss?
Just my every monthly comment that 62,500 in recovery staffing seems a lot when we're not covering our regular operations with that, and we don't actually have somebody I see on the street ever. So I see some public works people once in a while, but that 62,500 is going to people outside of this community, and I vehemently am opposed to it. Thank you.
All right. So if there are no other comments, all those in favor and opposed?
I'm in favor. Sorry. I'll accept the report.
So that is unanimously carried. Okay, now we move down to, we've already done the annual report. So we move down to the water and sewer rates, and CAO Mombriquette is there.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. This next item is a report on the water and sewer rates that we charge for the use of those services. And this is for the, well, it's an annual rate that we bill quarterly that is intended to cover the operations of those services. So we discussed back, I think it was in January, at one of the committee of the whole meetings, we took a look at the expenses, the cost of running the system compared to the revenue that we brought in. And in both cases of the water and the sewer system, we identified that there was a gap. We are required to have a self-funding water system and a self-funding sewer system. Now, Lytton's of course, in a little bit of a unique situation because we have really very few what you call variable costs. So all of the costs of the system are there, but we don't have the same number of users that we have typically had in the past. And so what it ends up meaning is that the users that are there all need to pay an increased amount for the system. So, of course, part of our recovery funding from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs was recognizing that and providing some funding to help pay for the water and sewer systems while we were kind of, reestablishing and rebuilding in the village. So this report is coming forward just requesting council's direction to look at doing an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw to just start to close the gap a little bit on the water and sewer rates. So if we look first at the water system, we charge approximately $399 a year for the water system for we're just looking at the residential customers. A similar increase would apply to other users, but just dealing with one category at this time. But you know, the expenses of the costs of running the water system are around $163,000 a year. And other than our annual fees that we charge to the users, we have about a $5,000 amount that we receive for selling water in bulk. And then the rest of it is required to be funded by the users. So one of the complications on the water system from a rates perspective is we also provide water to IR 17 and 18. And at this time, under an interim water agreement, Lytton First Nation is paying 50% of the rate for the connections on IR 17 and 18. So effectively what that does is it just shifts the costs over to the other users on the system. Now, as you know, we have approved to move forward with the metering, which will allow us to measure the exact usage of water on IR 17 and 18, and Lytton First Nation will then pay the proportionate share of the cost that applies to that. So that'll kind of even things out and make it a little bit more specific where the costs are being recovered by the particular groups that are using the water. So at this time, I'm recommending a small increase, well, not a small increase, it's actually 25%, but to move the water rate from $3.99 a year to $4.99 a year. With the sewer system, it's a little bit more straightforward because we don't have we do have the connections with IR 17 and 18, but there's no difference in the rates that are collected from them. So we collect a little bit more on the sewer system, and our costs are actually a little bit less. So, our costs of the system are $111,000, and we recover about $8,000 from accepting the gray water from the forestry camp up at Cumsheen. So that's not a long-term. That's probably not a long-term thing, but at this time, we're left to try to recover just over $100,000 from the users of our water system. Again, recommending a rate increase from what is now $414 up to $499 for a residential connection. These two things combined would generate 11,000 fees and 10,550 fees respectively for water and sewer. So it's not going to solve the problem, but it's just kind of moving in the direction and trying to get our rates aligned with the sort of the true cost of running a system. We also have spoken before about parcel taxes. I was going to bring forward a report on parcel taxes in a separate meeting, because parcel taxes are intended or are often intended to cover things like long-term capital maintenance and repairs. So it's not uncommon for a municipal government to charge a parcel tax, which is just a fee for every lot that can connect to the system, whether they're connected or not. But anybody that has access to the system pays an annual fee, and then those funds are used to maintain the system itself, the capital side of the system. So what we're talking about today is really recovering the operating costs. So just trying to keep those two things separate and distinct. And we were working on the parcel tax report to get it onto tonight's agenda, but then at the last minute, Lisa and I just had a couple more things we wanted to make sure we were clear on, so that we can advise council how that process works. So that's the report, and that's the recommendation in front of you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's put the recommendation forward, and it'll be a starting point for discussion. So thank you, Councillor Michelle, seconded by Councillor McCann. All right, so let's open it up for thoughts, questions, comments. Everybody's had a chance to read it at home. Nobody wants to comment on it. Councillor Lightfoot.
Nobody likes it. Nobody wants to charge people more money. But the reality is we have to balance the account. So the sooner we can get a better agreement with Lytton First Nation, I think that will alleviate some of the pressure on the rest of the users. But it still won't solve the problem. The biggest solution is get 40 more houses in town. And I know historically there used to be, like, for the hotels and things like that, it was so much per room, or the laundromat, it was so much per machine. So at this point, it's just a question. At this point, is it all just residential? Is it just one rate, or do we have any other industrial, call it, users?
Yeah, we do have a whole list of rates, but we only really have the motel and the school and forestry and the railways. They're really the only non-residential customers at this time who are connected.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Toss.
Thanks, Mayor O'Connor. I'm wondering, like, that amount, when I was reading it, I'm thinking in more like what the bill's going to look like. So currently we get a bill for $203 every 3 months. What is that bill going to be now?
So that's water and sewer together, right? I think the 203.
$249.50.
Pardon me?
$249.50 per
Okay.
quarter. It's not that much.
No, it feels reasonable when I look at it like that. That's good. Thank you. And
reaching for my
I
calculator.
echo Councillor Lightfoot's hope that we have a good agreement with Lytton First Nation going forward, and that that they pay their share, I suppose. I had one more question and I can't find it now. Oh, I just wanted to be clear. There's 64 connections for water in the village. That's the Village of Lytton boundaries, but that doesn't necessarily mean homes, correct?
That's correct.
So
That's
how
correct.
many of those are actually homes? Do we know?
I'd have to go back through the list and count it, because I'm just looking at the number of bills that we
Okay.
generate. Like,
So,
that's where I got
I
the
think there's
number
probably
from,
about a half a dozen connections that are not
that are
homes,
not
give or
actually
take.
homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, I did have one other comment about the parcel tax. If that is brought forward, like when you propose that, or when we discuss it in a few weeks, that's not in addition to utilities
Yes,
bills.
that would be. Yes.
Oh, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So the operating cost of these things does not change no matter how many units, people, houses we have. So best case scenario is that it's increased once we get the water meters in, the money collected, and with some rebuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I read in the report that there's a potential that it could be lowered. We don't know. That would be a decision of council.
That's
in
right.
the future. Yeah.
And that would only be if you had so many people rebuild, that then you're
That's
collecting
right.
too much, right? So,
Yeah.
because the costs are not going to continue to increase with more houses coming on.
No. Okay. Councillor Lightfoot.
And I guess the only other thing we can address is how we keep the cost of a functioning water system down. So at this point, we have people that have to travel to come and do work. If we had a local operator,
Yeah.
we might be able to save, I don't know, 20,000 a year or something. I'm just throwing it out. I have no idea really.
Yeah.
So there are those efficiencies that we can work towards in the future, right?
Absolutely. And we are working on that. As you know, we've started working with a local person who is working towards their certifications to be able to take over a water system like ours.
Thank you. Any other questions? I appreciate Councillor Toss's question and Councillor Michelle's math in her head, because that really does put it into perspective that it isn't a lot more.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will call the question then. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That brings us now to road closure bylaw, and we have a report for information. And I believe there's Carolyn. Good.
Hi. Mayor and council and community attending the meeting. First, I just wanted to say I realized that you had a really difficult weekend, and I'm really relieved to hear that the all clear has been issued. I saw that right before the meeting. So this is very, very short. This is the road closure bylaw, and you're not unfamiliar with it. This is the end of 7th Street to close that to allow the essential housing, the small duplex to be going in that location. This is just this to receive it is that council receive the road closure bylaw 7th Street number 783 to 2026 report for information, and then you'll be dealing with the bylaw under the bylaw section of this meeting. So if anyone
Thank
has
you.
any questions.
Yeah, so we'll put the motion forward to receive this report for information. Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor Michelle. And any questions regarding this? All those in favor? Carried, which now brings us down to bylaws for reading. And this same bylaw, we're looking at giving it first, second, and third readings. Councillor Lightfoot, seconded. Councillor, I don't know, Councillor McCann.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Tosh.
Any comments regarding this? No, all those in favor? And that is also carried. Perfect. Okay, we have a few items of correspondence, and the first is a correspondence for action. A letter regarding Lurtec X and a letter of interest from the village. Yeah, everybody had a chat.
Just to comment, this did come forward last meeting, but you had requested more information, so they did bring back and send some more information to you.
Thank you. That's right. That was just last meeting that we did request that more information to come because the letter was very vague. So now that we have more information, are there any thoughts, comments regarding this? They're looking for a letter of interest from the village.
I'll be honest, over the weekend with everything going on, I didn't read it.
You did get a chance, yeah. Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm usually somewhat experimental in new, innovative things, but this one just, I don't feel confident. There's a couple of things that I highlighted. One was that it's using rainwater. So I went and I looked at what's the average rainwater in Lytton. The average rainwater is 1.125 inches for June, July, and August. It's 1.25 inches a month. And even in the winter time, it's double that. It's 2.5. It averages 2.5 inches over the winter. And that's rain and snow combined. So the annual precipitation in Lytton is just under 17 inches, which is very minimal, I think, when you're talking about a big system. So that kind of made me a little wary or whatever. The other thing was it's reducing the reliance on diesel. That's good, but I don't believe we use diesel right now. And then there's the project partners. And so the municipality would be expected to provide site access, local coordination, and community engagement. And I'm not sure how the rest of the council feels, but I think we've got a lot on our plate right now. And so I just don't feel that it's something I could fully embrace.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's my comment.
Any others? Councillor Toss. Oh, you're muted. There we go.
Councillor Lightfoot did a really good job of summarizing my discontent as well. But the main thing for me that stuck out was it's premised on rainwater, wrong community. So yeah, I wouldn't support following up with a letter of intent.
Yeah. A letter.
Sorry, a letter of support.
Of interest. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no other comments, we maybe a motion or a request for staff to say thank you, but no thank you.
So
Not
moved.
quite the words. Okay. All those in favor? I didn't get a seconder. Seconder.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor McCann. All those in favor? And that's carried. Is that fine? I'm looking at our corporate officer, Storchenko.
Yes, I mean, I would maybe say that you've received it and that you, no, thank you. So
yes,
I'll put that into that. Okay.
Yes,
Get a letter will be written.
Thank you for that. Okay, good. All right, the second item for information is the National Drowning Prevention Week, and they're looking for a proclamation. And of course, I think we have a policy that, a policy that we don't do proclamations. Councillor Lightfoot.
Well, I was thinking about that, but we did make a proclamation on rail safety because rail safety was, I believe we did. They provided the.
I thought we just received it.
I think we did it the first year, and I don't think we have done it since. Corporate Officer Storoshenko, do you have a recollection?
In our policy, you have that you don't do proclamations except for the rail safety. So that was the only one that you did an exception for because you felt that that was very important. So that's in our policy. What I do, just so you know, is I usually write a letter saying about our policy, but we share the information still.
Yes, that's right. I was just going to say that there's no reason why we can't share out the important information from this. Yes, sorry.
So as long as we can put it on the website, I'll be satisfied. But I do think that drowning it is a major consideration, especially in this area. A lot of people are on the rivers. It's one of our strongest arguments for having a pool, I believe, is that we need a population of people that are trained in swimming. So I'm glad to hear that we can put it on our website.
Thank you. Okay, so that the motion is to receive that for information. So Councillor McCann is moving that motion and seconded by Councillor Toss. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And the last piece of correspondence was a letter that we received from a resident regarding property taxes. Are there any thoughts, comments regarding this letter? So we are looking, Councillor Toss.
Thank you. I just think it's good information for us as we plan for the village because it is like even, $20, $20, $50, $200. For some people, it is so critical. So just keeping that in mind, I think it's a really good reminder. I had a discussion with her. I know she called down to the village office as well and talked to Sam and it is a legitimate concern for a lot of our residents. And just, I hope that we can all keep that in mind.
Thank you. Yeah, no, good words. Thank you. All right. So a motion to receive this for information. Councillor Lightfoot, seconder, Councillor Michelle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Perfect. Okay, we move on to item 10, verbal reports. And I will go first. Excuse me. So June 12th and 18th, I was invited to attend Kamshin Shmamit and Stein Valley Intlekapam School graduations and to provide congratulations from the village of Lytton. They were excellent, wonderful ceremonies, both very, very different from each other, but just incredible nonetheless. June 16th, I attended the Scotiabank Community Appreciation Barbecue during the lengthy power outage that day. And I had an opportunity to speak with some senior managers that were there in attendance. On June 22nd, I attended a HCA legislation regional, I don't have the right word, an HCA regional information session by Zoom. And of course, with the recent events this past weekend, I would like to thank the Minister of EMCR, Kelly Green, and Minister Ravi Parmar for reaching out to me over the weekend to see how we're doing. I want to thank the BC Wildfire, Lytton First Nation and their fire crews, their EOC, and everyone that supported us at the Battlefield Hall. And I guess the TNRD is included in that, of course, and the Lytton Fire Rescue. It was really great to see how firsthand Lytton First Nation, the TNRD, and the village worked together. This was a prime example. It's great. And I would also like to personally thank our staff, in particular, Brian, Kathy, Jean, Kevin, and Melissa Duro for the hours they put in these past few days. And some of them did them right here and some of them did it from afar, but wonderful. I also want to acknowledge all of the residents in the village for your cooperation, your understanding as we maneuvered our way through this latest, probably not our last, but our latest emergency. So thank you to everyone. And then, of course, lastly, for some good news, I think we all know that as of 5 p.m. this evening, all evacuation and alert orders have been removed. And although BC Hydro is still working, I believe, on some pole replacement on Highway 1, it's now open, and I've heard it's single lane alternating traffic. So that is great to have access to the south now. That is my report. And next comes Councillor Toss.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. Not a lot to report. The events of the last 4 days, 5 days have been all consuming. My health hasn't been great, so I wasn't able to make the HCATP meeting, the Heritage Conservation Act meeting. I think it was Monday. I just totally missed it. So I'll be looking to you, Mayor O'Connor, maybe to fill me in on that. You know, we did I attended a chamber meeting. I did a few closed meetings we had. And I, like Mayor O'Connor, would really like to thank the other communities. I'm right on Main Street here. So on Friday night, I saw like Chilliwack, Pemberton, Logan Lake, and I'm sure countless other fire departments come to town. And they were, staging right in front of my house. And there was just so many people and so much energy there to support the village. And I felt really safe in the village, and I can't say the same for Loring Way and our surrounding communities, but I do thank everybody for coming together on that. And I really want to say sorry for those that lost their homes. I think there's at least a couple, and I don't think that's confirmed, so I won't get into it. But there's significant loss, and it's a pretty traumatic thing for our community. So sorry that happened, and hopefully, like Mayor O'Connor said, I think that there was a lot of coordination and response that was really impressive. So thank you to everybody, the community, all those people that Mayor O'Connor mentioned. I'm just so grateful that we're so well supported. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. I'll just follow my regular pattern here. I attended a few events and activities on the 10th of June. The workshop with the architects. And then later that evening, I went to the Buzzum Ski Resort open house here at the hall, which was interesting. The 15th and 22nd attended the coffee with the mayor. The 17th, I went to the Fire Smart Collaborative meeting. On the 19th to the 21st, I watched fire and firefighting near Lytton. On the 22nd, I also attended the regional HCA session by Zoom. So Councillor Toss, I could share some of that information as well. My general comments are, from my perspective across the river, I was impressed with the resources put on attacking the Sauk Creek wildfire. The energy and effectiveness of efforts is most appreciated. While no public statement has been released regarding homes lost, it is my understanding that sadly that is the case. I offer my condolences to those who have experienced that loss. The incident was difficult for most of us, forcing us to deal with triggered responses. I offer my support and appreciate the support offered to all members of the community through this event. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Councillor, where are we? Councillor Michelle.
Along with everyone else, I would just like to give my thanks and appreciation for all the help that we received.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Lightfoot.
I'm just adding on to Councillor Michelle's comments. I was really pleasantly surprised and amazed how fast it got knocked back.
Yeah.
Just watching the helicopters over the last few days, it feels like you're in a war zone. And I guess we are in a war with, fire. But it seems to have settled down. I said that last night, but when I woke up this morning, there were plumes of smoke again coming up. But they've done an amazing job. And I think it's only 4 days ago that it happened, right? I finally unpacked my go bag. And I have to admit, last summer, I think was the first time I didn't have my living room cluttered with go bags. And I thought, oh, maybe I could get away with it this year, but already it's starting to infiltrate again. Back to village business, though, I also was part of the workshop on the hub review and attended with Noni, the Fire Smart meeting. It was down at the mill, and perhaps Councillor McCann can help my memory, but we were talking about there is a program for assistance for people that want to do fuel management. But the prerequisite is that you have to have a home assessment. So given the fire and the circumstances of last week, I'm not sure what the timeline is at this point, but at some point, if you're within the village, someone may come to your door and ask you if you want to have a home assessment. And just to let you know, if you have a home assessment, then you can maybe qualify for some funds to help mitigate your surroundings. And then I spent one afternoon with the museum. They're still organizing, still looking for the proper electronic equipment to get all their details, and trying to pace themselves. So energies are in the summer are hard to get focused. But that's it.
Thank you. All right, so we move right on to item 12. We are going to be moving into closed meeting to discuss 91A and 91C of the community charter. And so please, can I have a motion? So moved. Thank you, Councillor McCann, seconded by Councillor Lightfoot. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried. So we will be moving into close now, and I'm going to thank everyone for attending and turn it back over to Corporate Officer Storoshenko.
Thank you, Your Worship. So that concludes the public portion of the regular council meeting for June 23rd. We ask that members of the public and staff exit the meeting as council proceeds to close. Thank you for joining us, and council, I invite you to take a short recess while I prepare the meeting for closed.